guys. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the value of art in education. Now you've all probably heard this quote, "All the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players." And no offense to Shakespeare, but I think that's a really closed-minded way of looking at the world. It's not just a stage, it's a canvas, it's a journal, it's a source of inspiration, a muse, and we are not just players. We are poets, and we're journalists, and we're artists, and we're sculptors, and we have the opportunity to go out and take the world and change it for the better. But only if we have the proper tools to get us there. And that is the value of art in education. There have been many studies, and I'm not going to bore you with a whole bunch of statistics, but I am going to kind of talk to you about what we have discovered about the effectiveness. Now, there's a lot of art programs that we can look at, but we're going to focus on 3 of them. So there's music programs, fine arts such as painting, sculpting, etc., and theatrical programs. So musicians, we'll start there. Musicians tend to be better with math because they have to, count beats and tempos and how many notes per measure. I'm not going to get into too much music jargon because I don't know a lot about it, but it's been proven in math scores. They have a lot of spatial temporal skills. They can look at a few pieces and solve a bigger picture. They have more problem-solving skills. They have to think on their feet, because if something goes wrong while you're in the middle of a performance, you gotta kind of keep going, because the show must go on. I'm gonna check my notes here, also have more language development. A lot of choruses sing songs that are in different languages, which, as we all know, is really difficult to learn other languages. Also, with singing, you have to learn proper oral technique to enunciate and project, which allows you to better communicate when you're talking, not just singing. We'll move on from music into the fine arts programs. So, as we all know, if we're mad, you can just draw a picture and it's a cathartic release of emotion. You can paint, you can sculpt, you can throw crap around and just feel good, and a lot of people call it art. So, with that being a cathartic release of emotion, people are calmer, they're more willing to listen in class, they're more willing to, sit down and actually figure things out because they're not getting frustrated because they have that release. They have an improved ability of self-expression. When you're doing art, you're learning what colors you like, what mediums you like. Do I like to paint? Do I like to sculpt? Do I like to sing? Whatever. They learn more about themselves and are more willing to express and learn about others. So not only does it help you in the academic field, it helps you with the social field and the mental field, and it helps you, pretty much everywhere. We will move on to theater programs. Now, I can speak from personal experience. I did theater all through high school and middle school, and I'll tell you a story later, but not yet. Theater really helps with memorization because you have to memorize lines, you have to memorize cues, you have to memorize technical cues. If this light goes on, what do I have to do? You're blocking. When he says this, I have to move here. What's my inspiration for moving there? So theater kids really learn how to memorize things. They learn methods to memorize, so it helps them in studying and testing. They also have a better sense of confidence. Once you get up and talk to a whole bunch of people, even if you're just playing a character, you have a little bit more confidence to get up and talk about whatever. So it helps you in classes, if you have to do a presentation, because I know in high school, if I knew there was a presentation, I was crying to myself because I did not want to get up and talk to people. So we've heard a lot about all those awesome, cool programs in school, and I've got a little bit of evidence here. Now, Cynthia Garcia, Don Jones, and Carrie Isaacson are from all across the country. Cynthia is actually a superintendent at Driscoll ISD, so that's kind of like an educational program where they're measuring test scores and things. Don Jones is a professor at Texas A&M University, and Carrie Isaacson is also a professor at Hardin-Simmons University. So they basically studied with the No Child Left Behind Act, which basically limited how much funding art programs got because they wanted to focus on reading and math. And yes, that's awesome, that's great. But art, as we have already talked about, improves those skills. So they studied standardized test scores of kids that had art in the program and didn't. And I'm not going to go through the whole list because it's pretty long. This is a pretty thick packet. But there was a significant difference in reading achievements, significant difference in math achievements. There was like a 95% rise in test scores in kids that had even an hour of an art class, which I think is pretty cool. So these kids, with their test scores, they went on to go to colleges, they got scholarships, they got more methods of education so that they can go out and make more successes of themselves. So I think that's pretty cool.
1 minute warning.
I told you I had a story, and I'll do it very quickly. So, I was not the most popular kid in middle school or high school. I was that little geeky girl in the corner that was reading all the time, wore a whole bunch of black. I still wear a lot of black, but you know what, it's fierce, whatever. I didn't like to talk to people. I hated speaking out because I stuttered, and I just didn't know how to express myself. And then I discovered theater. Well, my teacher told me, Rachel, you may be weird, and that's fine, but you have to own up to it. So I learned self-confidence. I discovered more about myself. After I got up in front of a whole bunch of people and played wacky characters, I really didn't care what people thought about me because I'd already gone out and done something weird on stage. So I gained confidence in myself, I learned better how to communicate with people, and actually it helped my test scores. I was basically a D and C student in middle school, and once I got to high school, I realized I had to turn it around, but I didn't have those tools. So my teacher actually sat down with me and said, Rachel, you can use theater to help you in classes. How do you memorize your lines? You sit and you read them over and over and over. You have someone read them back to you. We have a whole bunch of methods to memorize things, and so I started using those to study. And I graduated in the top 10 percentile of my class. I had a 4.2 GPA. I got a scholarship to go to another university. I'm not there anymore, but that's a story for another day. And I felt that it helped me achieve more as a person because I had that art in my education. So art is important, and I hope that I have convinced you of that today.
All right.